That's right.
So today we are chatting with Peter and Susie Bagwell, who are doTERRA US founders, and we're talking about the Founders Club. So the first question is, what is the Founders Club and why is it such a big deal?
You first, Amy.
Go ahead.
So the Founders Club is a way to reward the people who are going early into a market, who are kind of doing the hard work, the boots on the ground to get out there and start the community and the business in a certain area. For Susie and I, it was in the United States. It was right when the company began. The company was very small, and we were one of the early ones who had an opportunity to talk to people about doTERRA and get it started. It was not easy because people never heard of doTERRA. In fact, back then, a lot of people didn't even know about essential oils. So it was very different than it is today. Nowadays, people know more about essential oils, but back then, people, if you said doTERRA, they wouldn't even have known what you were talking about.
So we get an extra check at the end of the year, usually end of January, beginning of February, and I call it my doTERRA profit sharing check. It's a wonderful bonus. It's worth every stitch of effort that you put into it because it is well worth it. And when you talk about a reward for working your tail off, this is such a huge blessing.
And honestly, our check now is a lot bigger than it used to be because the company has grown. At one of the first conventions, or the second, whenever we got acknowledged for being in Founders Club, there wasn't it just wasn't as big of a deal as it is now because it's so amazing how much doTERRA has grown. In fact, one of the things that I got from doTERRA was this watch.
I didn't put it on today.
And,
I've been wearing it.
I still wear mine because I love the fact that it reminds me of how much work that we put in doTERRA in the beginning and how much it was worth it. And as we still work doTERRA today, that's a nice little reminder for me that it's really worth it. Not just because we get the extra check, but we look around and see how it's grown, how many people's lives have been changed and improved and bettered. And not just our customers, I mean, just the workers and the people who have been affected by the co-impact sourcing and all these other things that we never even thought about in the beginning stages. Right. It's really been worth it from that standpoint.
You look really good in that watch, by the way.
Thank you.
Okay, and so how much time and resources are needed for this then?
It's a race! It's a race! So you better get
It's
running. A race.
Yeah, you didn't say that.
I didn't say it. Come on, it's a race. It's a race. This is the only time doTERRA is a race. So, like as in any race, you need to work hard and do it fast because this is something that you cannot treat lightly. You have to get really serious and figure out a game plan and get it together and do it fast. Just like starting any business, we have things that we have to do to get it rolling, but this is one time that you want to figure out, get all your ducks in a row right from the get-go, because the first 25 people in this race will win.
Yeah, because right now we're talking about the new Spanish Founders Club in the U.S. market. And when Susie and I started, we didn't really even have the website that doTERRA has today or the brochures, catalogs. In fact,
literature.
Yeah, all the fancy boxes.
And we didn't even have diffusers back then.
Yeah, we were really starting from scratch. If we needed that stuff, we had to make it ourselves. And so what's going to happen is as you go along in this new area, you might find that, oh, well, I don't have this Spanish thing that I need, or there's nothing for me to help me. You're going to have to make those things yourself. And you're going to have to find, maybe if you can't, you're going to have to find team members that are going to help you. Also, when we started the U.S. Founders Club, there was only so many upline to go to. We only had 3 upline. But for many of you that are going to go for it now, you may have many upline or cross-member teams or that you can work with and share resources with. It's going to be a huge help, but there's still going to be those things that just you're going to find you need something, it just doesn't exist, it's not something you needed before, and it's going to be up to you to figure out how to do it. It's very much like starting a new business. Even though we already have a doTERRA business, for us, we're still talking about if we're going to do the Spanish U.S. Market Founders Club, There's still a few days left right now. We're not really sure because we've looked at all these different resources. How much work is it going to take? And we remember how much work it took. Because just like starting a business, there are those sleepless nights where you're trying to figure out which direction you're going to go next, or how you're going to solve a certain problem or a challenge. Or sometimes, like when I was starting my machining business, there was equipment we didn't have and supplies we didn't have. And we had to go out of state to go find those things and have them shipped in. And there's going to be things like that you don't have readily available. Maybe you have a lead on a new customer or a wellness advocate that's going to be in part of your downline, and they are in a different state or they're in a different place. You're going to have to be willing to make that extra drive to go see them, teach them, host a party for them, host a class for them the next week, host a class for their people the week after that. So that's going to take fuel, transportation, partnership, communication, resources of materials. So you got to think about, are you ready to put all those things into it?
You know, the other thing too that I was just thinking about, this is sales. And so a lot of times for us who've been around for a while, when we teach an oil class or we meet with someone, sometimes we don't always generate someone becoming a wellness advocate or buying an enrollment kit or even purchasing oils for that matter. You don't have time to wait. So right now is the time that you need to hone in on the fact, how can I get people interested in doTERRA through the Latino market? And that's the key to all of this, is that, you know, we walk away from events that we do and go, well, I planted some seeds and I have a little bit of, you know, interest there and I'm going to follow up. Follow up is really something that needs to be done that day. You need to figure out, well, if I'm not that good at closing the deal, and I say this all the time, then figure out what is it that I need to do to get these people buying product right now.
That is true, because if your goal is to enroll one person a week or one person a month, if you're going to reach gold in a short period of time and then maintain it, then you're probably going to have to up those goals from your normal rate. Like for us, we enroll someone once a month no matter what. One of us is doing it. We're often trying to enroll more than one person a month. We've been doing that for the whole 10 years. So that pace is going to have to be accelerated a little bit. You're going to have to think of it this way. You need to reach gold to get qualified for the Founders Club. So if you're not gold yet, why not? Right? What have you not done to this point that's gotten you? Why are you not gold yet? So if you are gold, how long did it take you to get there? Was it 3 years? Because if it took you 3 years to get there, you need to compress all that work into just a few months of time and say, okay, well, what was I doing when I reached gold in the 3-year window? Was it because I enrolled one person a month back then and then worked with my team? Well, if that was the case, let's shorten that to a 3-year window. And maybe you're enrolling a couple people a day, and then you're training with not a couple people a day. Let's say it's a couple people. Let's say it's one person a week. But then your training with those people and help them to duplicate that is going to have to be accelerated more than your normal pace. That's probably a good answer.
So is it possible to do this working full time?
It is possible to do this working full time. The structure of our business,
We
being
both
that
were, actually, when we started
Were
with
we?
US Founders. You were working full-time, we had the day spa, and it was in
Yeah.
my volunteer work, and a full-time mom. So that to me was
I was a
working
full-time
full-time.
dad,
Yeah.
by the way.
Still are.
Yeah. Yes, you were a full-time mom. I was a full-time dad.
So the answer to the question?
The answer to the question is yes.
You-
But just think about that sacrifice you're going to have to make. If let's say you're going to go for it, how are you going to decide whether or not it's working for you? You're going to have to give yourself a window of time, right? Is it going to be 2 months or 3 months that you're going to say, well, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to give it everything I have after work, in the evenings, maybe sacrificing your weekends, just like you would if you were starting up a side business that was going to become your real business. You would have to sacrifice some of that time for the future benefits. And so I forgot about that. We were both working full-time.
And you know what, one thing too I want to highlight is the fact that the quicker you find people working with you, the quicker this grows. if you feel like I got this, I got so much to do and I'm gonna have to do this all alone, yep, it's exhausting and it's probably going to be a little bit slower of a rate. But if you can find people to jump on board with you right away, boom, it's awesome. Happens like that.
Yeah, that's true. You may have to be less focused on finding new customers, which might be your normal focus, and be more focused on finding a few rock stars. You don't need a lot, you just need a few.
Yeah.
But you found those few rock stars, and that's going to really take
Like
you
that
to the
word.
next level.
Rock star. I'm a rock star.
So what if you don't make it in time? Is the risk really worth it then?
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because even if you don't make it, all this effort that you're putting into it is just going to make your business explode. So, and it's a rejuvenation of what's happening in your entire team. Even if you don't personally do it, if you can support someone and get somebody else on board and going for this, it's going to explode. So yeah, absolutely. The risk is totally worth it, go for it.
We talked to so many people that had tried Diamond Club, and they didn't make Diamond, but the experience was so worth it to them because it taught them a lot about themselves, about how they're doing in the business and where they're at, and it also showed them what they needed to do to actually reach Diamond. So in the very same way with this, you might say, well, what if I don't make it and I put all the effort in and it's not good for me? The reality is, if you're working doTERRA on the side, you were probably going to do this in the next, let's say if you give yourself 2 months, you probably would have done the same amount of work in the next 2 years. But now you've compressed it to an earlier period of time, and you're going to reap the benefits of that for the next couple of years. It's really an awesome thing, whether maybe you would add an extra Power of 50 bonus in somewhere, or maybe you find a new leader that is actually better than one of your other leaders, a leg that really responds well to you and that you can support. You may just have those personal experiences where you help people that have been dealing with seasonal threats their whole life, and you have that emotional connection where they're just grateful to you for the rest of their life for helping them and their families to be able to live a better life through doTERRA. When I look at what we did and what we found, where doTERRA's gone in the 10 years after that is just mind-blowing. And that's because it's gone beyond just, the oils that we had when we started. We have unbelievable products now, but the direction of the company is also continuing to grow the same way that it did in the beginning. We have so many different things that we're looking at with co-impact sourcing, what it's doing in the world. We look at what's happening with, why can't I think of what the health care thing is called, the clinics, so where the direction where things are going with the clinics, or how about even where things are going with networking wise and team wise, how we just continue to get all this good training. Hey, I have an oil for that.
I know, I got a cough.
Okay.
I'm thirsty.
It's just a great way to fast forward what you're doing in your business and lump a whole bunch of it in right now. You're really going to expand your market too by going Spanish over English too. You're going to learn to do some things that you don't normally do, and that's really good for you.
You got this. You can do it. We did it. If we did it, anybody can do it.
Thanks,
All
guys.
right, I hope that helps.
Bye.